Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, the political dragon, Michael Voss. I am here in the Bronx. It is May 21st, 6 p.m., and I have the wonderful opportunity to have Dion Powell with me. He's with the Conservative Party. He's a consultant. He's an MPA. He does work with the NAACP. There is a lot about this man, and more importantly, a lot that he is doing in the community in New York City and in the Bronx. And I think it's going to be very informative for you to hear what he has to say, to see where we can go in the future as voters, as Americans, as a nation. So, with that said, I hope you're going to enjoy the entire conversation that we're going to have. And let me start off with Dion. It is very good to have you with me. I know we met the first time was back in Staten Island, and you were, it was the
Convention of States,
Convention of States, that's it. And
New York.
in New York, and we had a great time speaking then. My own fault of delaying the time that we could be together, have this conversation, but we met again Saturday in the Bronx at the Black Patriots for Trump rally, which I think was very well done. And we said, hey, let's get forward. Let's move forward. Let's talk about the Conservative Party, talk about you, talk about candidates. We'll get to the Trump rally, both of them, in just a moment. But let's start off with, first of all, for my audience who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm District Leader Dion Powell. That's why over here it says the Honorable. Traditionally, I represent the 78th Assembly District here in the Bronx, New York. Fordham, Fordham University, the Bronx Zoo, Botanical Gardens, Bedford Park Boulevard, some of Michelle Parkway, Ole West to Cedric and the 204th Street Bridge to the Heights, and yeah, Southern Boulevard, Webster, Grand Concourse. If you're from the Bronx, know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm a product of Catholic school from grades 1 to 12. Shout out to them. Kindergarten was public school before I was yonked out. Believe it or not, most black men, if not all black men in New York City in the political game, all went to private school and Catholic school and sent their kids there. Isn't that interesting? I'm a product of the first student government in America at the City College of New York. I'm proud of the first film department in America at the City College of New York as well. I used to be a constituent liaison for the community of the Bronx for the New York State Assembly. Also, I'm part of a lot of organizations, NAACP, who I'm not with. I left last year as I left the Democrats alone. We'll get to that maybe. And I'm also the Assistant State Director of BLEXIT New York, Black Exit. Our founder is Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum, and we're changing the narrative for African Americans. So I consult small businesses, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and special interest groups. Now is my time of the year. We're helping candidates get on the ballot with a petitioning process, strategic operations. Field operations was very difficult in the hood because most elected officials can't even come into the projects and knock on the door of their constituents, believe it or not. But I helped them navigate this space. And thank you, Michael Voss, for letting me finally have this opportunity.
No problem at all. So before I go further, there's one thing I want to clarify because most people don't know politics. They don't know the different offices, the elected positions, and all of that. So this is a wonderful opportunity to help them understand. You mentioned that you're a district leader. Now, many people, does that mean that you were elected? Is that an appointment? Is that within the Conservative Party or is that with New York State? Because I know that as a committee man, I am a Republican committee man, which is an
Oh,
elected position. And so I am an elected official, the lowest level. Is that the same thing?
yeah, so district leader is by assembly district. It's a pro bono role, as I explain it to the community as well. I don't get paid, but I represent a bunch of constituents in this district. Now you can run for office and do a petitioning process. Sometimes you get appointed. It's a political party position. So Democrats have a lot of them, Republicans, and repmyblock.org will help you run for office for this position and the county committee, which is the bottom of the pyramid. Every block, because we're so dense in population, has a representative to the political party. So at repmyblock.org, you become a district leader, a state committee man, a county committeeman, or a judicial delegate. Some of the civic education I bring to the hood all the time is judges are elected. If you have 10 years practicing law in New York City, retain Dion, a consultant, to help you do the paperwork necessary, run for office, and become a judge in our system. So these roles are very important, but most of them go vacant or appointed by the county machine or political party for their purposes. It's very important. County committee like yourself is very important because if there's a vacancy in the assembly, whether they die, resign, and so forth, you guys in the assembly district only get to vote for the political party appointee for that. For example, if there's a special election called for your assembly person, all of you guys would call to a special meeting. You vote on a candidate for the Democratic special election or Republican. But most likely in the Bronx, the Democrats will pick their candidate, and that party usually always mostly wins their special election as a result.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see special elections in New York State. They're not exactly the most balanced kind of election that we tend to see. But I do encourage people, and I always have, that you should be involved and be, if you can, become a committee man in whichever party that you're in, so that you can help to choose who gets to be the candidates on the ballot in November, who is the person who's going to represent your region at the local level, at the local, state, and federal level. It is important, and it is actually very easy to do in most parts of this country. Most
Right,
people
but
think
you
it's
could
very difficult.
also,
Good.
right, you could do it yourself if you're in the
Mhm.
city. Repmyblock.org is a site you could do, help you push your positions and do it individually. For example, I was the only one out of 200 vacancies on the Democratic side for a 79th Assembly because nobody knows how it works. They always let the machine or county dictate all that stuff, paperwork. And that's Theo Chino. Now, Aisha Kurouts is my upstate connection, who is a part of the Douglas Leadership Institute. She has her own virtual county committee platform to help you run in the more rural suburban areas of New York State. So shout out to those guys.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm all happy to. You can shout out to anybody that's important or reference any website that would help voters make their decisions, whatever it may be, in any election. I'm always happy to have that. No problem. Um, let me move forward. So I wanted to make that clear for people so they understood what that is, because sometimes, we're in politics, we're familiar with many of these terms. People go, I have never heard that before. Well, so let's make it easy for them to know going forward. Now you know what it is. But something that you left out in your background, I thought that was kind of interesting, and I wanted to bring up is you are part of Starfleet International. You are a Trekkie.
That's right. And I'm also the commander, executive officer of the USS Osiris,
Yes.
the only New York chapter located in the Bronx. I've been a member for, since I was 18. And you don't know how it is. I'm at that stage in life. And we're an international organization, sfi.org, Starfleet International. And you too can have a chapter or start a chapter in your local area. And we have meetings and conventions, and also we go to movies, we have game nights, and also the Osiris is part of New York City Star Trek Coalition, because there's other organizations like Starfleet, different cosplayers in this realm. Darlena and some more people go to the movie nights, the conventions, the cruises, and we all sit together. So Star Trek, as opposed to Star Wars, like my captain deceased would say, Star Wars is a good story, but Star Trek is a good idea, as you can see from all the amenities we have today.
Okay. Well, no, to be fair, it is true that
Just like
Star
this.
Trek has, the communicators, which were an inspiration for cell phones. They had a lot of inspiration among scientists that we now are living with those innovations as we speak. I'm guessing you're
Right.
looking for something right now.
Yeah, I want to show you something cool if I can find it. Here it is. 1 second. Here we go. Do you know what this is?
That's the comms badge. Communications.
No, no,
No,
no,
that's
my
the
friend.
hologram. That's the hologram that the
Yes.
doctor in that
Please state the
weird one.
nature of the medical emergency. So this is
Yeah.
something called the mobile emitter. And so that's how far I go as a geek. If I had the money and the space, I'll be all kinds of decked out. But this is like, where I went to all the things. And nobody really has this at any convention or
No.
anything, except for me.
Okay.
Something so small.
Well,
literally.
you're a human being. See, a lot of times people don't think that politicians, people in politics, that we have like hobbies and we're human beings. Yes, we are. I wasn't a fan of Voyager myself.
Yeah.
Seven of Nine, yeah, but not the show. I think DS9 was really good. Of course, the original series, phenomenal. Of course. I mean, that's what started it all. Matter of fact, I'd ask you, who is your favorite Star Trek captain?
Captain Christopher Pike, the new version that is in Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. That actor really kills that character. I never thought I'd find a captain replace Jean-Luc Picard until him. He saved Discovery for me in season two, and that answers that. And poker, we would say that's a snap call.
Okay, not a lot of people I know would even reference Star Trek Discovery. Um,
Blech.
yeah, that's the universal answer to
I'm
that.
just supporting a black lead, a black woman who could do no wrong,
Okay,
even in
yeah,
space.
yeah. She's DEI in space. That's
Oh, wow. I love it.
Well, that's what she is. She's a diversity hire, and so is the show. That's my opinion about Star Trek Discovery. You don't like it? Tell me in the comments. I'll look forward to it. Don't blame Dion on that. That's me, and I'm a
But I
Star Wars
did,
fan primarily.
I did give you a salvation, which was Captain Christopher Pike in season two. That I can't say enough. But as for Star Wars, not to prolong this, the wokeness has corrupted the third trilogy, in my
Yes,
opinion, and
absolutely.
it was sad. I remember me and my girl at our Christmas party after it came out, and once I decided I didn't like it, you could see us huddled and smoking. But you didn't like Star Wars. I didn't like the movie either. It's like we were like just like Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. You be in the corner like, yeah, I like it. I hated that movie. So
Yeah,
disgusting.
it is
One and
interesting.
done.
But then over time, people come to agree with us more and more, kind of like with conservatism. People tend to agree with us over time, or has been my experience. And speaking of that, we're going backwards in time a little bit. Let's look back in, say, 2015. You're the chairman of the Young Democrats, going 2015 to 2017. You're working at the 79th Assembly District office as a community liaison for Michael Burke, who is a
Blake.
Democrat. Michael Blake, excuse me, Michael Blake, who was a Democrat, and you've run for elected office as a Democrat, as a conservative. I think you tried to get also multiple lines, also as a libertarian. Not unusual. People go for many lines. But
Yep.
what that shows to me is you didn't start off as a conservative nor as a Republican. You started your political career, if I'm understanding the background correctly, as a Democrat. Is that right?
Yeah, my grandmother made me a few things, and Democrat was it one of them. That's why I preached question 14 of the voter registration form. Because when I showed her this, I was like, nah, you're a Democrat. And one of my BLEXIT members a few years ago said, Dion, you have to explain people this question 14. Because when I was 18, I was told a Democrat is for the minority and the poor, and the Republicans are for the elite white people. Of course, anybody of color would have checked off Democrat at that time. But there was a progress that I came into this political realm a little bit more seasoned, thanks to being part of the first student government as the vice president and the parliamentarian, as it were. So let me
Mhm.
just show my little book. I'm also a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians now, and the Parliamentarians Metro New York chapter. And so when I came into this realm, progressively, I was able to be ahead of the game and see through the tapestry and see through the picture from different angles, knowing what bylaws are, knowing where Robert's Rule of Parliamentary procedures are. So I couldn't fall for certain okey dokes because they would have information withheld. Like, hey, where are the bylaws of the New York State Young Democrats? Wait a minute, where are the bylaws of the New York State Republicans and things of that nature? How can I? And recently, thanks to, I'll give her a shout out, Assemblywoman Latrice Walker, recently, a few years ago, I found out how can someone be a part of the Electoral College of New York State? These little nuances people should know because this is a lifestyle we live. Once you know these things, you won't be like racism, racism. oh my God, there's racism over there. Be careful. And then also, well, don't worry about that. Everything should be free, progressive, tax the rich. I'm more into how, why. What committee? Who's funding your campaign? Where are you putting your money when you get the campaign money? Are you putting it in the community to hire from within and get your printer from within? Or are you paying outside out of town consultants to have that kind of influence? So I was the chair of the New York State Young Democrats Caucus of Color, because that's the boxes we
Mhm.
got to play. But I always was ahead of the game, so you couldn't really just tell me anything without question. And I was a part of New York Urban League, Young Professionals, NAACP, as you said before, and a lot of civic organizations. But the thing is, I would come into season, so as soon as I knew what I was talking about, I would be threatening and confrontational. Because somebody said, Dion, your problem is you're threatening and confrontational. I said, I'm a nice guy. Is that possible? He said, no. Any institution you walk into, you're a threat because you know a lot of information. Sometimes you're the most smartest man in the room as a result, and then you're confrontational in the sense that you're not scared to question anything. You could be in Yankee Stadium and they'll say, hey, are there any questions? You would raise your hand and stand up and grab that microphone and ask a question, not a question story, not a story question or a statement. You would ask one question to destroy everything. Like, hey, I see all our MWBE funding going to non-businesses of color. What's up with that? And just sit down. That's it. And then that gets the brain juices flowing. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, you said that MWB is supposed to help black businesses, but we only got 2% of contracts when we're supposed to be guaranteed 70%. How is that possible? And then the dissension, if you want to call it that, starts to spec up. Back to you, Skip.
No, no, I understand. And I think it's very interesting to see how people, because we're seeing a lot of this. I mean, that's what BLEXIT is all about. It is the black exit of the Democratic Party, named after the exit of
Brexit.
Brexit,
Britain.
which is the United Kingdom leaving the EU. So it was, again, a symbol of breaking from the expectations of the establishment, not being part of just the establishment machine, but being different, being individual, whether that's as a nation or as individuals. That's what I see the Blexit movement as. Is that a fair description of that?
Right, but the thing is, just like the National Action Network, the Urban League, and even the Nation of Islam, there's a formula paradigm of branches or chapters in which we support each other, get resources, and have this type of engagement to actually take an action. A lot of organizations, but African Americans, where we have this formula ever since the Black Church helped organize us. So now, as a result, we have chapters in like 46 states and DC. We're being so progressive now with all this red pilling, if you want to call it that, in which now we have chapters on 3 HBCUs. I was shocked in the meeting earlier this year when Pierre Wilson, our executive director, announced that, because I'm like, well, we're the black evil, sellout, coonish, Republican loving, white man loving Blexit, but how is it possible we're getting chapters on HBCUs, historically black colleges and university? So we're actually, waking up a lot of people, and as the slogan is, we're changing the narrative for African Americans. So we're doing the work, especially in New York, where Madeline Brain, my state director, is on to Fox News about her victims' rights organization for victims, because her son was murdered, and thanks to bail reform, his perpetrators will let go. And me, I'm doing the civic engagement piece. So I'm always out there now, thanks to our video in November, with my crew and everybody else in the hood saying we love Trump. And now Trump wants to come to the Bronx as a result. Just like I did on Saturday, educating about Kathy Hochul's statements recently, which I'm sure you'll play. But I also took the time to bring out the naughty books that are in our libraries, even though our library is going bankrupt with the drag queen story, to expose that. And then my social media put the hyperlinks or URLs, as the young kids call them, to actually people actually see it exists. It's not the Monster Liberty, which is a good organization in other states that are red, but it's progressively, insidiously coming into your public school systems. And also do the homeschooling, in which I help give those resources ever since the COVID lockdown. I do school choice. And this, by the way, Michael, has been the most spiritually fulfilling work I've done in my life with this Brexit. Because I know people who've lost everything for not taking a jab. So I came with the school choice. The National Black Home Educators presented. They said, according to our numbers since 2020 to present, Black home education has gone from 6% to 17% and growing nationwide. Pretty soon, the African American community will be the number one homeschooling demographic in America. There's various reasons you could list as to potentially why, but also come with the Children's Scholarship Fund, hopefully you give them a shout out, the Inner City Charles Fund, which gives up to 75% scholarships to private schools, like I went to Carmen Spellman. And one of the reasons everybody that's saying this, I left the Democratic Party alone last year and became a full-time conservative, is because they recently announced the closing of my alma mater, St. Angela Ritchie, out of 7 Catholic school closures at the time last year. And you must destroy education, especially faith-based education, in order to control us in the Bronx, where we're kept so poor, dependent, dumb, and helpless and hopeless. And we don't have access to 3 things. When I ran for office, I said we need 3 things to actually break poverty. We need access to capital, our own money, access to leadership, and run everything in our community, and access to ownership. These are the 3 principles that I say will break the cycle of poverty. And I'm very big on how, but I'll go into those hows later. Back to you.
Now, I think that's kind of referring back to, I believe this is your 2020 run for the 79th District Assembly seat in the Bronx. And if I remember correctly, during that campaign, one of your statements were, quote, "The Bronx is always known to be the poorest congressional district, yet the most democratic district. But people are kept so poor, dependent, and dumb that they can't see the correlation." I think that's kind of referring back to what you were just mentioning.
Right.
So, so it seems that you've been very consistent. And I also note that during that same campaign, your top 3 issues at the time were child support forgiveness, Spanish as a second language program, and college degree minimum wage salaries. That one I don't get. I understand what the other 2 are about. Fathers' rights, about making sure we have fair representation, fathers having the ability to be part of their child's lives, and making sure that child support is fair and available both for the father to be able to pay and the mother to be able to receive, and the child, of course, to benefit from this. I get that. And I get Spanish as a second language. Obviously, New York City, New York State, and the country, actually the world, Spanish is one of the largest languages in the world, number 3, actually, in the world. So I can understand why that would be used as the gateway, maybe to help some people, some of these illegal aliens, to integrate into America and to become part of the American system by having some commonality of language. Fine. I don't understand the college degree minimum wage salaries that you were supporting. I'd be happy to hear that if you want to go into it, or we can go
Of course. You see, I'm very big on how as a candidate. Sometimes my how, sometimes because people are used to the dance and all these other wonderful ideas. One thing I try not to do is use the word program in my answers. So when I say that, we should have a degree minimum wage, it was a concept in which anybody in the community that has a bachelor's degree or beyond should be guaranteed positions of leadership in their community. What does that mean? Every nonprofit, because nonprofits are business and they're the number 1 lucrative industry here in New York City where they make money from poverty and behavior, then they should be guaranteed a position of leadership in salary at these nonprofits, for example, or city agencies. For example, during the George W. Bush era, there was a certain program, I guess you could say, from the Department of Labor. If you were unemployed, you'd be eligible with a degree to actually get certain positions in city agencies and government of the state just by having a degree. Now, all that test stuff is out the window. All you have to do is apply with your degree and you'll be guaranteed certain positions. Because as you know, this day and age, people are waking up again, realizing their degrees aren't really meaning anything when actually you could just get a KSAC and make more money than a master's. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I always admit that I advocate that people need to be in trade schools more than they have to be in degrees going forward. It's necessary for America. We have a dearth of it. We need it for our infrastructure. And you'll get paid as much money with far 1/10 the debt. So I think it is a true and real option. So I do understand and I do agree with that.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. But if you look at the patterns, as I'm a person that drank the computer science and engineering Kool-Aid of the '90s and realized, hey, Bill Gates And that other guy from Apple, they're billionaires now, but we're still trying to play catch up in college. A lot of
Mm.
people, change majors or flunked out chasing the computer science billionaire millionaire dream after Steve Jobs and the rest of the gang. So now it's like AI, AI, AI. Whereas they systematically eliminate those vocational programs, as it were, and departments through our public school system. Take the Bronx, for example, where I'm from. We used to have a high school, well, we still have a high school called Alfred E. Smith, which
Mhm.
citywide was known for automotive. Now, me, I was out there too at the rallies trying to protect that automotive program from being eliminated. And it's like, well, why would you eliminate all these specialization high schools and try to program AI, developer tech, things like that? Because they know those industries are amongst a certain nepotism and cronyism of union labor that our people aren't really included in or have the wherewithal to apply for and that kind of stuff. So it's like, well, these people are guaranteed six figures at a certain point. These people are guaranteed to open their own business in this specialization where you can only go to them. And it's like, well, what about everybody else? Because if I'm a person, a parent that has a problem with high school, 14, 15, and I own an HVAC company, sure, pull them out and yeah, work in my HVAC, drive the van, kid, get a license and that's it, and take over the business. So I just want to give a special shout out to Torres Tech because that's another black-owned HVAC training program with Torres, in which they teach people to get these certifications, refrigerator and the fire guard, and show them how to become a business owner or get the six figures for certain companies in the network to do that. And that's a very good what you call a company and organization that I push people to as young as 14, because you actually do these things as young as 14 or actually
Mhm.
get a real estate license or invest.
Mhm.
I saw people in my investment class invest as young as 6 years old. You see, this knowledge of the hidden realm of politics, government, and business, our people don't really have, I shouldn't say our people, but people in general at certain socioeconomic levels don't know it exists until sometimes it's either too unattainable because they're advanced in age or they don't have access because of financial difficulties or they're not computer literate to a certain point to get accustomed to those lifestyles.
Well, I think I think that people who lower education, the less education you have, the more you think politics, investing, these opportunities are more out of reach and more difficult to understand than they actually are. And I've always
Right.
found the experience that as I walk it through with people, and I've been a stockbroker, I've helped people learn about investing before. Um, and the thing is, the more that you become familiar with something, you read the Wall Street Journal every day for a month, you will be remarkably more familiar with the terms, the ideas, and then investing isn't such a mysterious thing anymore. Same
Well,
thing with, go
Well,
ahead.
I would like to add to that, which I discovered, working for a campaign, Sam Ravello, who's a former police officer, a veteran, is that that's not good enough. This is a lifestyle. Cardinal Spellman is one of the most diverse schools in the Bronx, in which you're among everybody, the Irish, the Indians, the Latinos, the Albanians. Sometimes you have Jews in there. Now you have Muslims in there trying to exit the public school system. And that's very important. And in which you could ask questions about, yeah, I didn't know you had a sponsor or we're going to college and you have this kind of program or this experience. So one of the things I say for upper mobility that's a lifestyle is the NYPD or law enforcement, for example. I found out that NYPD is a minority majority institution. And
Mhm.
being amongst all those different NYPD and law enforcement agents, you hear some of the guys, white, let's be frank, that come and say, oh, my mortgage and complaining. And then you're not scared to ask a question about a mortgage or get support from your friends on the job to get your first house and have this constant lifestyle, the lingo and jargon, because you're consistently a lifestyle with other like-mindeds. That's why college is such a dangerous place if you understand how that works. To have questions and friends to support a network of that lifestyle, it's harder as an individual to become a doctor as opposed to going to medical school. Oh, you're a cohort. Everybody's told the lingo every single day. And then, yeah, the same thing with investing. Certain people just talk investments all day, every day, even if not on Wall Street or crypto all day, every day. And sometimes now, thanks to virtual and online, you find like-mindeds, either with
Mhm.
BLEXIT from ideology or just some chat rooms or video games to say, oh wow, you do that, yeah, I do stocks, can you help me out? And that's the lifestyle you need to live.
Yeah. Well, essentially, more people break out of the echo chamber they're in and go into others,
Ooh,
expanding your knowledge base, the more opportunity you have. I think we all can agree with that. And I think that's important for people to understand. Don't be afraid to ask a question, to find out more, and then to delve into that more deeply. And then your opportunities expand. I think that's not just a Republican value, not just a conservative value. I think that's an American value. And I think it's been beneficial to America overall. I think you'd agree with that.
yeah,
Okay.
melting pot.
But
Remember that? Not a South.
essentially, yeah. Uh, Now, I know we've been talking around, we haven't talked about the politics, but I think it's important. Again, people need to understand politics, politicians, we're people just like you. And it's amazing how often I hear people say, well, you just won't understand. You're in politics. It's like, no, I'm still a person. You're just as you as well, Dion, are a person. And we do. We've grown up and gone through the same process. You can do this too. It's not unique. It is not
It's a
something,
lifestyle.
yeah.
The good citizen. And one thing I explain to people, even kids in the projects, is that civic education and engagement is number one above anything, because the most powerful tool the man has is the ability to create and change the rules. You could be a billionaire in China, but if you don't have influence in the government, you could be thrown in jail to somebody else, or your assets can be seized and all that kind of stuff, like they're kind of doing with Donald Trump right now. That's why it's
Hmm.
supposed to be so scary to everybody.
No, I understand. They are definitely having a two-tiered system when it's around Orange Man bad, as they like to say.
That's
And we
right.
see this as an example for what, 8 years now? So
Trump
yeah,
derangement.
yeah, it's really scary. So let me actually delve into and let's get into the politics a little bit here. Let's start off with the first thing. So the Bronx Conservative Party. A lot of people don't know, especially in the Bronx, don't know that there is a Bronx Conservative Party. In fact, going on to Facebook, going on to Twitter, I can see that prior to, I believe it was 2015 is the earliest I saw some of the information. It's relatively new in social media. It's new in access relatively recently, depending on which platform we're looking at. Can you tell us what is the goal of the Bronx Conservative Party?
Well, number one, to make changes in the Bronx. It's not what we're going to do, it's what we're doing already. I used to work for a city council Republican primary candidate, George Half, shout out to him. And, he wanted to run a Republican line and a conservative party line because there's something called horsepower endorsements. Normally, the Democrats team up with the Working Families Party, have two
Mhm.
lines. Republicans team up with the Conservative Party, have two lines. So I said, George, we have to create a bigger pool of conservatives. They don't really exist. You have to get petitions and signatures. Why don't you let me expand the pool and create more conservative party members? He's like, how? I said, what I'll do is I'll go into communities, specifically the projects, with the voter registration form, my crew will knock on every door and educate question 14 the 40 political parties. And would you like to leave your current political party? He let me go, do just that. And when I did it, I had close to nearly 100 people to do just that. Knock on the door. You guys been saying you want a third party, right? Well, here it is. Oh, I didn't know. Wow. I'll definitely check off that box. Oh, wow. People said it. I thought I was black. I had to be a Democrat. No, you don't have to be a Republican, so it's evil and satanic, but there's two options. I'm with the Bronx Conservative Party, by the way. Oh, wow. Check. As a result, that snowballed in 2023, in which we elected our first Republican in the city council in 4 years. But if you're a consultant like me, look at the voter data, it was the Bronx Conservative Party through all those votes of people of color and beyond. That 6% difference is what pushed the Republican to win. Otherwise, Democrat versus Republican, they would lose their business as usual. But they didn't foresee the Conservative Party having so much support that the behind the scenes people kind of ignored it. Because normally they monitor these things, or I'll be honest, certain trickeries with the district leaders and poll workers, but it pushed her over the top. And shout out to Christy Marmorato. No matter how you feel about her, she needs her accolades and her flowers for that. And that's what we're doing. But the end game is, and I say it a lot, is to become the official swing voting bloc of the Bronx County. So that way, candidates have to come before seriously interview. That way, the incumbents have to take us seriously as what's going to happen next in our community. How come our constituents are actually voting more so for this political party? Oh, people aren't voting and voter turnout is low. Good, that's your problem, but our opportunity.
Okay. So, to an extent, and I've talked to many libertarians who are also a third party, much like the Conservative Party is, except the Conservative Party is
They don't have
recognized.
ballot access. They don't
Well,
have ballot access
well,
anymore.
that's what I'm about to say. And yes, the Conservative Party has ballot access. It's accepted by New York State. The Libertarian Party is not, and therefore they have a much steeper road to travel. But both parties are the same in that many Blacks, Hispanics, many people, in fact, don't know that that is an option. So, what is the first thing people, and you kind of mentioned it just before, but when people hear, "Oh, I'm with the Conservative Party," uh, what's the first thing they're saying to you? I mean, you mentioned,
You're a
"Oh, you're
Republican.
Black."
You're
Oh,
a
they say,
Republican.
"Hmm,
It's not cool. You're a Republican. No, look at here's my voter registration online. It says conservative. Wait a minute, you're a Democrat, right? Why don't you prove to me you're a Democrat? Here's the Board of Elections website, voter lookup. I'm conservative. Can you prove to these wonderful people that you're a Democrat? I don't want to take your word for it anymore. And then this is when you put the facts over the feelings. And this is when you take out the fear over the feelings. Because they do a lot of social emotional learning, which is dangerous right here. It was like racism, Republican evil, orange man, and that's not working anymore. So that's the first thing. Number two is like, well, you must want to take away my abortion. And I love my abortion all day, every day, up to 13, 15 months. How about that? Or you must hate the gay people. You must be a homophobe, transphobe, all kinds of phobe that we need to call you. And those are the certain things that I get. Oh, well, those are like the top ones. And, you might get the nuances. Well, when the white liberals go, well, you're Black. I mean, don't you know those people put you back in chains and they going to set you back now? I'm so scared. Well, guess what? Now you're a racist progressive. Oh, no. And there you go.
yeah, they love to say we're going back into chains, and never happens. I mean, people forget we've had a President Trump for 4 years. We
Yep.
have a track record, and none of it involved racism or putting Black people in chains. Yet they keep telling us that will be the result. I don't know where they keep getting this from. It's fear. It's about fear and fear mongering. So let's
But once
talk about
again,
President Trump. Because as you mentioned, you're with the Conservative Party, you're looking to grow that and its membership, and that's fantastic. People should reach out to you about that. But at the same time, you're also supporting Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Now, I think in a large part, there is no Conservative Party candidate separate of Donald Trump. So I think that may be a big factor in it. I could be wrong. But tell me, when you're talking to people about Donald Trump and they're saying, "Oh, but you're conservative and I thought you were not a Republican." What's that conversation like?
well, I'm glad you asked. So, one of the things is when I talk about my love for Donald Trump, and I'm not scared to scream it in the projects or in the penthouse. So, from the projects to the penthouse, I gotta actually take that. So, first thing is, it actually gets people out of their comfort zone. Just like, wait a minute, you thought Star Wars is horrible? Oh, wait a minute, I like Trump. So it gets people because people say, yeah, you have the problem is you have too much aura of leadership. And that's what happens. Then people actually like, what, I like Trump too. People walk up to me like, even white, black, whatever, yeah, I like Trump too. And I get mostly more of that feedback. And then I say, well, this is what I'm doing with the Conservative Party. Taking my phone, I said, pick out your phone. Because every time I speak, it's a workshop. I said, Google Trump Bronx Newsmax. And if you look at one of the URLs, you'll see me and everybody else in the hood saying how much we love Trump and how that trickled towards Trump. And that's what made him in November actually say, I want to come to the Bronx now.
Mhm.
After seeing this footage from Kara Kashinova, shout out to her, she's running for the United States Senate from New York. Because of this segment, it blew up, went viral everywhere. And then Trump was like, yes, I want to come to the Bronx. And he's going to be here Thursday. That's been announced. And that's what we're doing. And then once people see my Black self, put myself out there, the hater noise is very, very faint. And the support goes way up. So anytime somebody trolls me with the, they're going to put you back in change, That's when other people come out and say, no, you don't want a black man to think for himself. And that's when I say, wait a minute, that person's racist. And so the other people have to figure out what to do with me because they can't come at me hard as opposed to my white counterparts who wear the red hats. And I know them too. And that hurts. But when they see us all together, interesting factoid with BLEXIT and some other members, when we go to our rallies at either Trump Tower or outside District Attorney Bragg's office, or even when we were at the Trump construction site, even Harlem, there are so many Main Street media whose cameras live out there.
Mhm.
NBC, MSDNC, CNN. And because, in my estimation, so many black people are peppered throughout the audience. I mean, the crowds, or we stand in crowd. My people actually jump in front of and behind the commentator. There's so many of us there, they never air the footage. I don't know if people know that. In New York City, anytime there's a Trump rally, there's not much footage. You gotta ask yourself why. Normally they have all the red hat wearers. Look at all these racists in New York City or in the Bronx. But does that make sense? Doesn't make sense that we have a Republican city council person in the bluest county in America. And she's in the heart of AOC's district. A lot of people don't know that. And
Well,
that's when you start to wake up. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
well, see, that kind of goes counter to, and it's interesting you bring that up because according to New York 15th District congressional Representative Ritchie Torres, he has come out on the record and has stated that Donald Trump is both evil and the enemy of New York and the Bronx, and that he opposes Donald Trump showing up to speak to the public, and that he will protest Donald Trump appearing and speaking before the people because he says the Bronx is so blue, so progressive, that there is no place or voice for anyone else. How does that make you feel when you hear that?
Oh, wonderful, because he represents me. And that's when the opportunity comes to play. And with the education of the United States Constitution, because once again, you're stifling number one, free speech and right to assembly. So when people are like, oh, Constitution, my free speech, all that stuff, well, you just threw it out the window. The next thing is, all these elected officials, anytime they make those social media statements, look at the comments. Just observe the comments and see what's going on. Even from constituents like me who may drop a comment if it's egregious, just like that. And so, what is Dion doing as district leader? So far, on the flyer of the counter protest led by Assemblywoman Amanda Septimo, who I know from the Young Democrats days coming up, that it's in the New York Post. And I said, well, let me look at this flyer. I saw every nonprofit on the flyer that's come to help and save us. So what Dion do? Let me look into their EI numbers. And I had all the EI numbers ready to go. I had the Attorney General's link to go. I had the IRS nonprofit complaint link to go. And then my network is splashing out certain flyers from the community to put out with this new flyer of protesting, the counter protest, but productively of how it works. If you see these nonprofits, here are the EI numbers, please put in a complaint form, mail a letter, all that stuff. Now for Ritchie
So,
Torres and all the other elected officials on that flyer, I put out campaign finance on those flyers. Go to these campaign finance, look at the money, see where it's coming from, and make a complaint. Ritchie Torres and AOC are a little bit different. There's something called opensecrets.org. And when you go there, they really connect the dots. And lastly, I'll say this. The reason why I was aware of this flyer before it came out actually is that I got a phone call. He's a field operative like myself and so I know a lot of crews that do this work, field operatives and get on buses to protest, paid to protest. He said, Dion, I just want to let you know that certain nonprofits are reaching out to hire crews to, put on t-shirts and hold the shines of rally. Because these protesters that are a little progressive are scared to come to the Bronx unless they're gatekeepers like me that let them in out of their Ubers. So that's one thing, the intel on the streets that I got already, but we're going to blow up their spots. You're misappropriating your funds to help us save us to hire people to protest for political purposes. And that is effective. You said earlier the dragon. Well, I know how to fight this dragon with a toothpick, this political dragon.
okay. And I want to be very clear that I do understand you believe it is possible. And again, key word here is that it is possible that these nonprofits that have already apparently seemed to lend their support to this protest against the First Amendment, against Donald Trump speaking, that they may have made a violation of their nonprofit status. Is that correct?
Yes, because if you look at the flag, clearly it has a Democratic Party logo. It has a Working Families Party logo, and all has all the officials. Because remember, the reason they control the Bronx specifically is these nonprofits give out all the free goodies, free toys, free school supplies, free prom dresses, free turkeys, and elected officials are there just to hand them out in the optics of the pictures. So yes, the one word that hurts any nonprofit's feelings in this fashion is audit. And I'm very big on that word. So that's what I believe. And again, they make so much money off our poverty and behavior. And that's how the AOCs and Ritchie Torres make a lot of their money outside of political nature as consultants and celebrities and pundits and so forth. The New York State has like the number one nonprofit industry in America as a result of this. Nonprofits are not designed to work. It's a hustle of grant money and funding to actually perpetuate the problem. Imagine if miraculously crime goes down. That means my grant to fight crime will go away. Where's your numbers now? Oh, great. Our grants fix crime. Everybody's safe in the community. Well, I can't fund you anymore. You can't have your street anti-violence mobile or your payroll anymore because we're not going to give any more grant money. But now we don't have to support anymore, so we implode. And it's like that's the one biggest threat side of the problem because now homelessness is through the roof. So now funding is through the roof for homelessness and that nature, and it perpetuates because as soon as you fix the problem in New York, shout out to Larry Sharp, Libertarian Party, who taught me this, all that stuff will come to an end and a lot of people will be out of work. It's a multi-million billion dollar industry.
Yeah. And that is, Larry has always been Larry is a personal friend of mine. I've known him for 10 years. But Larry and I agree on this point that, yes, there's a lot, our government perpetuates a lot of the problems. They kick the can down the road because they can always sell you on, I promise to fix it eventually. And then they never do, but they always get reelected because of that promise. It is a major problem we have seen in many politicians, but not necessarily with President Trump. He's one of the few presidents in recent modern era that has been actually very effective at getting what he promised done. Not everything, not completely, but in terms of percentages versus other presidents since the 1950s, he's right up there at the top. Let me ask you though, what is it that either you and or the Conservative Party, because it may be different, I don't want you to put words in the Conservative Party's mouth, but either for yourself or for the Conservative Party, what is it that motivates you to say, yes, President Trump is the best choice for someone of color as well as an American citizen, as opposed to Joe Biden?
Well, for myself and the Bronx Conservative Party, we're a very diverse group. Number one, we would say Donald Trump is the first in a long time not a warmonger president. He believed peace is good for business. Now, if you're with the Ferengi, you know peace is good for business and war is good for business. You know, rules of acquisition. Shout out to them.
That
So
is
that's
the
number
Ferengi.
one. Number two, you also believe that, hey, Trump, no matter how racist and demonized you call him, he was consistent. War, 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 war. I don't care. War, 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 some more. China. War, 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 war. And then in hindsight, a lot of people don't have a sense of political history. They're easy quick to forget, but because Trump was so consistent, war, 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 people with all these migrants popping up and falling out of the sky, like, wait a minute, Trump may have been right. He did say war, 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 war. And the third thing, when it comes to free speech, again, I feel people all the time, you know, the reason, well, one of many reasons Trump's infamy and popularity go up is because he is always fact checked. Now, if anybody during the COVID lockdown remembers, there are millions of Americans who were fact checks in Facebook jail. So it's like, it tricks, wait a minute, Trump's being fact checked. That's not cool. I was fact checked. And they don't see these little nuances. So as a consultant, I try to put those things out there. So those are like three things that I appeal to Trump. And then, of course, I'll even add number four. You know, we are big on education in the Conservative Party, especially school choice. So, of course, we saw how Donald Trump progressively became a racist, as opposed to all the African Americans and African American organizations, Rainbow Push, that he helped along the way. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
That's just 4
NAACP.
points.
He was getting awards from the NAACP for decades until he decided to run against Democrats, and then he became a racist, which is kind of funny, as opposed to the openly racist statements that have been made over decades by Joe Biden.
No, the policies. It's that
That
it's
too.
not what you say, it's what you do. Actions speak louder than words. Now, Trump's actions actually speaks louder than words. Central Park Five, this, and the third. But even after the Central Park Five, the black leaders were still given awards and stuff like that. People forget that as well. As Joe Biden, I love black people all day, every day. You ain't black if you don't. Him since the 70s, you can see the policies implemented and all the lies he's done to try to get ahead and all those wonderful things have hurt so many black people. Kamala Harris, the first black woman, not so much. Even when she was the Attorney General of California, she would try to keep the black men and black people in the jails. So once you see these nuances and information is too simultaneous, we'll all find each other online.
No problem. I know we've been going over a little bit of the time we had initially expected, but it's a good conversation and it's informative. And I think that's the two best things we can do is be entertaining and informative if we can in politics. You don't always get to have both in politics.
And leave you wanting more. That's one of the first rules of this game.
Absolutely. But I did want to address two questions I do want to address. One is in reference to Saturday, which is also in part what's happening this Thursday, which is President Trump is coming to the Bronx in large part because you have been a very vocal advocate to have him come to the Bronx. That is on the record. There is no question on that. But at the same time, Saturday, we had people, even without Trump coming, with no guarantee that he would be there, but merely to share his voice, we had about 75 to 100 people at the peak show up at the event. I did live stream it. You were there as well. You were speaking. And we did several interviews in the 3 hours that that event went on. But it was basically blackballed. It was locked down. There was a news media blackout. I mean, every major news media organization has their headquarters in New York. There are well over 20,000 news organizations, employees that are in New York City. Many of them live in the Bronx. Not one of them reported on this event that happened on Saturday in the Bronx at Brian Rainey Park. And again, people can see the live coverage to see more about that for yourself. Given that that was the case, that there was a news media blackout, that they ignored and denied the existence of this rally of conservatives and Republicans and redemption third party individuals who are Asian, that were Hispanic, that are black, that were white, came together peacefully, speaking about why they thought he was the best candidate. That was all shut down. Does that give you a fear for Thursday that the news media are going to somehow try and do the same thing?
Actually, it's going to be a different nuance. The news media is going to be like watching like a hawk for the counter protests, any hiccups along the way to play it on loop. But the thing is, with Saturday is very key, is that we all came together, but our white counterparts from other boroughs, Long Island and beyond, they were a little bit timid. And I said that's a good thing because you need gatekeepers. And I said every person in the hood is a gatekeeper to bring you inside and invite you inside. That's the way it should be done. It's like if I come to your Long Island prestigious suburbia, it's good if you bring me in and we all stand together. And that's very important. It can't really be a grass top down, drop in with the MAGA people. Then it's like, no community involvement, engagement. But because so many of us were there, like I ran to my guy and he's from Guinea. He's like, wow, Dion, you bring Donald Trump here, it's real. He walked by, he jumped in the crowd, and then we have people driving by honking. Because I play with people all the time. Black people in the hood are more scared of white people, if anything. Because they know, just like here, I live in Belmont, Little Italy in the Bronx. If something happens to one of those former university students, this whole area will be so hot that people actually move that are poor to Florida. You see what I'm saying? And so then people got out their comfort zone. We're all vibing. We all have camaraderie. Red hat wearers, Proud Boys, MAGA flags, I rock the red, black, and green African-American flag, and we're all together. And there's so much love. You didn't have any protesters. It's been out there. I had a professional press release put out. CNN called me a week before, interviewed me about the Kathy Hochul gaffe. And they wanted to come through too, but they didn't show up because I said the optics would be too perfect for you. This rally. And I did speak about Kathy Hochul. I did expose the naughty books, and that actually went viral as well. 1,000 within a day. So it was very effective. But then again, those major outlets, their ratings are going down, 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 down because we're telling our own stories. Thanks to the internet, we're finding each other. The rumbles are exploding, the signals are exploding, the telegrams are exploding, the WhatsApps are exploding with information. YouTubers that report on the fake news or the general news, we watch more so. Shout out to Doc Rich, shout out to Phil Scott, shout out to Savvy Sabs, shout out to TD Media Group, another one I watch and follow. Just give me those clips of the inconsistencies. Doug and Out Exile is another big boy. I'm following you too right now. Shout out to your platform and things of that nature. So it's very, very key because the ground is very important. Like a lot of people are scared to come to the Bronx still. So for Thursday as well, hit me up. I said it's not as scary as you think. The scary thing should be is you won't be able to find parking. That should be scarier than the people in the Bronx. How about that? And so, you contact Dion, the Bronx Concerted Party, working on several things. I put out a link. We were looking for volunteers. Within one day, we had 60 people, sign up of the strength of me and the chairman of our networks to volunteer to do voter registration at the Trump rally. A lot of people looking to the Bronx Conservative Party for leadership, like what's going on, how can we get involved, can you get VIP, can you get us close to Trump? So one of the things as a community leader that I'm working on is in me and the other Dion, because there's another Dion, the olive skin Dion, we're actually trying to, I know he's going to do it, have certain rallies and receptions in Little Italy, in my district, at certain restaurants here, so they can be spillover if needed. We can watch them on a big screen like the game, there's bathrooms, we could buy food and support that. So that's when it's going to become real. But it's going to become realer when we counter the counter protesters ground up. Because I've done it before, even in 2020, with the BLM and all those creatures. And, where we put the EIN numbers out there, we're going to show people how to report that. I might even do a webinar and put it out there and circulate the video. Excuse me. The EIN number, the NTE numbers, the CHAR 900, the Charities Bureau. Let them have it.
Okay. Then let me ask my final question. By the way, earlier you had mentioned the Torres company, and I want to make sure, is that Torres, Torres, or is it Taurus, Tarus?
TARUS Tech, Taurus Tech. Either I's in there somewhere. I'm not going to spell, but just like the zodiac sign, taurustech.org. Those guys are very good. I think they may still be at an American Legion post or a firehouse where they, go in and do the HVAC training, real hands-on to the repairs as well. And so if you need the HVAC certification, the training, open up your business, they'll show you how to make six figures after you get those certifications and hands-on with the network. Very good stuff. And if I can find funding, because I was their consultant for a little while, I'll bring them in directly unless, you're a high school dropout, if you're part of the alternative incarceration program, or if you're in Catholic school struggling, come over here, let's set you up hands-on and get you out there. And that's a big proponent of school choice.
No problem. I just want to make sure I understood the proper spelling of the name, make sure I had it right.
You get the link from me. Don't worry about it.
No problem. So my final question would be in reference to on Saturday at the rally in Bill Rainey Park, and I would imagine also on Thursday, there were candidates, conservative party candidates looking for various races. One of the individuals is a candidate for the New York 15th Congressional District against Ritchie Torres. I believe that was Mr. Oh God, I forgot.
Gonzalo Duran. We also had Tina Forte against AOC.
Gonzalo Duran.
Go ahead.
And he's the candidate going against Ritchie Torres in the New York 15th. There were actually 5 candidates that I recall that were speaking and that we recorded that were at the event.
Even I'm a candidate too. Surprise, surprise.
No, I'm not surprised. I was going to let you bring that up. I wasn't going to. I wanted to see if that was going to be the last thing you were going to bring up, but okay. For these candidates, for people to know more about the candidates and what they are offering, to know more about the Conservative Party and what it presents, or to understand what are the options that people have. And I think that's one of the most important things. Again, we've been talking about it throughout this entire interview. You have options. The public has options regardless of your color of your skin, regardless of your income, regardless of your education. You have an option because you're an American citizen. You are not on a railroad and someone has already predetermined that choice for you. So if people want to find out more about the Conservative Party, yourself, all the candidates, where would they be going?
Well, we have a Facebook group, the Bronx County Conservative Party, where you might get more information, or you can contact me directly because we don't have certain mechanisms in place like the big boys to do all kind of stuff yet. Website and so forth. We're getting there, but our main goal is to re-register a lot of people, not do voter registration drives. That's the gimmick. We're doing a voter re-registration drive in education. You just have to activate the voters that exist. So, you have to reach out to us. We're doing the best we can to get ourselves out there. The rally was one of them. This program is another one. It has a candidate as well. I thank you. And that's pretty much it. But the theme that I resonated, that I say to help you out, you don't even have to know who we are. Just don't vote Democrat. Don't vote Democrat. Let it resonate. Don't vote Democrat. You're going to vote anyway, but if you don't vote Democrat, more than likely you'll be voting for us.
That's an option that people always can investigate. In my interviews, I don't pick. Well, I do kind of pick sides. I'm not pro Democrat. I'm not pro Democrat. I'm not pro socialist or progressive. So there you go. I do have a bias. I admit I have a bias. I have no problem admitting that. Is always at the end of every interview that I do, I always offer, is there anything that I know we've covered a few things. There is a lot more that we could cover. Of course, it is politics. There's a lot going on right now, like with the Pledge of Allegiance, and there was a recent YouGov poll about that. I'll do a different video on it. But is there any subject, any topic, any issue that you didn't get a chance to speak about yet that you believe is very important that you want to reach out to people and say right now?
You see, I'm going to use my media communications arts degree from Dust City College and bring it back to your point of the Pledge of Allegiance, survey that you sent me, in which this thing that kids repeat throughout their childhood was very instrumental to me at Cardinal Spelling from my social studies teacher, United States government, Mr. Riblin. And he'll say something that I'm going to repeat that'll break a lot of mindsets. He said, you know what? This country is not a democracy. The whole class, it's a democracy.
True.
And what he did was mind blowing. He said, right now, I want this entire class to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And that ended it. You see what I'm saying? Because if you repeat the Pledge of Allegiance and to the Republic for which it stands, then you see the media lies and all the promulgation, democracy. So wait a minute, this is a republic based on
Constitutional
the United States Constitution, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you can't fool me anymore with this democracy. He said, yeah, if this is a democracy, that means everybody has to vote every day and all day, all the time. Your representatives has to do that, for you, through you and your votes. And democracy is dangerous because, you can have a majority taking advantage of the minority. And then you have a minority taking advantage of the majority by certain mechanisms of democracies. Socrates, who I've been compared to, hated democracy. And here's why, blah, blah. But that's what I'm going to end for you when you talk about the Pledge of Allegiance. That one phrase, and to the republic for which it stands.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a very important document. I think it's an important oath. I think it has a place in our college, in our schools. It's formative. It breaks, or at least it could break, the indoctrination cycle that we tend to see. That's my opinion. This is me speaking about my thoughts there. I don't want to bring that into your interview. I'll do my own video on that because this is your time. But I thank you for addressing that. And for people who don't know, I do try to send out, sometimes if there's breaking news, I think it's important. I do send a link out ahead of time to let someone know that this is a topic that may come up in the discussion. No one knows any of the questions I ask until I actually ask them. And so that was
no gotcha questions.
No, I don't do gotchas. I don't do gotchas. I make people.
You don't know it's a gotcha question. That's the thing. You ask these questions as they come up, but you wouldn't know if it was a gotcha question. And that's I'm humma.
Well, it's true. True. Fair enough. But I do my homework. But with that, I know we went over we were expecting to do about 30 to 40 minutes. We've gone on for about an hour, which I find went very quickly. What fast?
Exactly, because it's a conversation, it's a little dance. Like I even my clients, I prep for interviews by researching the interviewer style and watching some of their program and do a dance. And then again, the subject matter is so passionate. There are two things you don't talk about on the first date, and what's that?
I haven't been on a first date in a long time, so God knows I've probably broken the
Religion,
rule.
religion, and politics. And seeing as though you are the know and I'm in the know code, we can do this dance for a long time. We may agree, disagree, but I know how to do that. And that one thing, like I said, in this industry, thanks to Dust City College of New York, is that you always leave the people wanting more. So some people are like, hey, he needs to be a part two of this guy, or maybe these guys should, do this as a duo or some fashion. But yeah, man, we talk at
Oh,
great lengths because we're passionate about this. We know what's at stake. This is when politics becomes personal and blah blah. We're trying to wake people up. One thing I discovered about myself, because I didn't like activists being a student government, is that when somebody called me a patriot, that was shocking. No, you're a patriot, Dion. You're fighting for this country, what you're doing, and you're an activist. The definition of an activist is you have to activate the people, and that's what you're doing by this whole process.
nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that. I just have certain problems on the process. Some people who call themselves activists, they use activism as an excuse for violence, intimidation, coercion. I'm talking about BLM. I'm talking about progressive leaders of tomorrow. I'm talking about the progressive movement, Democratic Socialists of America, and a few others as well. I call them out by name because they deserve it. Now, that's again my opinion, my thought, but I do understand your point. And activism isn't the negative. I tend to believe activism isn't the bad word that many people look at it as. It's the way people decide to be activists. That is the problem. There is a difference. And again, look at Minneapolis when it was burning down. Look at people who did that. Was that activism? No, that was terrorism. But there you go.
Domestic, not foreign. Or
Yes.
maybe it was foreign from the enemy within. I don't know.
Well, and if we were talking about Dearborn, Michigan, yeah, but that's yet another. See, we're going to go on and on. This will go like 2 hours because this, again, we
I'll
have a
die
wide
here
berth. We have a
because after
wide berth.
after prove I'm right.
uh, but I do want to have more conversations in the future. I do hope that, and I know I'll try and speak with you about this to try and arrange to speak to some of the other candidates. One of the things that our channel has always done is we give a voice to candidates, especially first-time candidates, who are
But you
not
don't even know what I'm
getting a
running
fair
for.
shake in the media. And we always have done that. We've done that for 18 years. We will continue to do that for any and all, doesn't matter what party, doesn't matter what their ideology is. We will always give people a chance to speak to the public, to let the public know the choices that are available to them. And in part, that's what you have done today. And we thank you for helping us to reach out to
But
the
wait,
public.
wait.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
don't even know what I'm running for. You didn't even ask me what I'm running for.
I did ask you what you want. I did ask that. You didn't follow
Well,
up, did I?
I'm running for the 33rd State Senate District here in the Bronx. Whoop.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if, because we were talking with your position in the Conservative Party, if you could mention your election status. So I didn't want to, I wasn't
Organic,
sure.
organic.
Yeah. So it was organic. So and that's my reasoning for no, folks. It's not that I didn't know. I do homework. I do a lot of homework, but it's just, there are rules. I try not to get people in trouble because I do know what the rules are.
The
But
ability to create and change the rules.
eh, only the Democrats can make brand new rules out of the blue. In my opinion, again,
The blue, the blue.
yeah. But I hope to see you on Thursday. I expect that I will be at the rally. That is my expectation today. I do plan to try and reach out to more of your candidates. I hope to see you there. Hope to be able to inform the public more. And please, always feel free to reach out to me to say, hey, Mike, there's an issue. It needs to be addressed. The mainstream will not let me get my voice out, and this channel will. We will always provide you that opportunity. Okay?
Thank you so much, and peace and long life. And please state the nature of the medical emergency or the command emergency.
All right.
No Soundbites Allowed is a podcast hosted by Michael Vass. The podcast focuses on providing in-depth discussions on various political and social issues. As the title suggests, the aim is to go beyond quick sound bites and explore topics in greater detail. Michael Vass, the host, engages with guests to analyze and discuss current events, policies, and political ideologies. The live stream and videos cover a wide range of subjects, including politics, economics, social issues, and more. By delving into longer, more comprehensive conversations, No Soundbites Allowed aims to provide listeners with a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding contemporary issues. AI is listening. Shouldn't you know what AI knows? Aren't you tired of being treated like a child by major media parrots and want to be respected as an adult? There is nothing to lose and a lot to potentially gain, so check out No Soundbites Allowed on all major social media platforms.